Leading our bulletin this hour, Finance Minister Godongwana will deliver his medium-term budget today. He faces a tough balancing act as South Africa's growth slows down. Our team is in Cape Town. Business anchor Rhofhiwa Madzena is at the Cape Town City Hall for us and joins us yet again. Rhofhiwa, it remains a very, very big day today. What are others saying on the ground? Earlier on when you spoke, it seemed that tax or capacitating SARS would be a priority. But what are others saying should be a spending priority for Treasury?
Yes, taxes were very important, Mfundo, and we've actually got the DA Shadow Minister, Deon George, to talk us through other issues that they've highlighted in terms of the well-being of people when it comes to taxes and the affordability of basic goods that we procure in the country, just given the rates of inflation and the economic stagnation that we've experienced in the country. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. And maybe let's start with that, because there have been conversations that I've had where people have said that our VAT rate is lower than what you'd see in other countries, and so increasing it would probably be a viable way to increase the revenue stream for the budget. The DA's views here, and also just the zero-rated VAT items that are currently in the system and how they should be structured.
The problem with VAT is that it's regressive, which means that the people who earn the least actually pay proportionately more tax. So it's not a fair system as such. What is good about VAT is it reaches everybody, and we know that government is not actually getting all the tax that it should, because a lot of people are outside of the tax net and we have a large informal sector. The reason for that is because government has mismanaged our economy. It hasn't been able to create the environment where people can comfortably work in the economy, especially small businesses and entrepreneurs. And that's a structural problem caused by government. But South Africa's VAT rate relatively is high if you look at what people are earning and also how they are battling. And that's why we've said that you must cut the VAT on an expanded basket of foodstuffs, specifically because we need to get more protein into our population, because we have people who are hungry at night and people who are starving, and that's not acceptable. South Africa is in fact not a poor country. It's only poor because our government has mismanaged our economy. So we believe there's more than enough fiscal space, not only for that, but also to provide a basic income grant, a conditional basic income grant that the DA has costed at about 585 Rand, that we could universally make available. There is enough money if government stopped bailing out the state-owned enterprises. That's the big problem. So government sits at the center of the economy. It believes that the state-owned enterprises will miraculously create jobs and then pumps money into them. It's unproductive. It doesn't work. So what government needs to do, focus on its job. Provide infrastructure, education, healthcare, support vulnerable people, make sure our ports and roads are working, and then get out of the way and let business go and run and make money. And they will do that very, very well. They will generate income and they will pay tax. Then you do not need to rely on VAT. It's lazy of government to do that.
Yeah, it's an important point you raised there about state-owned entities, Eskom, Transnet being almost the bedrock of our economy in terms of their functionality. And the DA has been very strong in its views on government taking on Eskom's debt and the way in which Eskom should be serviced in terms of fixing it. Why are you so against that idea, and what alternative would you put on the table to remedy the situation at Eskom?
The DA has a very comprehensive model that you can apply to rescue Eskom, because we obviously need electricity, and nobody's proposing that you just collapse Eskom tomorrow. That's not going to work. Starting up another one also isn't a good idea either. But what we have said is that we don't support taking Eskom's debt, putting it on the national balance sheet, because then you create moral hazard, because then there's no incentive to get any better. You just believe, well, okay, the people of South Africa will just keep on paying and we don't have to get effective. What needs to happen is we need to inject the private sector into Eskom so that they can make Eskom more efficient. Because if there's in fact an incentive to be efficient, you will become efficient. So the model that government is working on is fundamentally flawed. And what it's doing is it's actually blackmailing the South African population. Because what it's doing, it's saying, well, if you don't allow us to put more money, take Eskom's debt and put it onto our national balance sheet, you're going to have no electricity. Well, actually, the problem is it's the model. If you change the model, then you can have it working, and then you don't have to keep on bailing them out. If you have private providers of electricity that can generate into the grid, why can't you do that? The reason for that is because government has the wrong economic model. It positions itself and its failed state-owned enterprises in a place where they're just getting in the way. Our economy will not function that way. So the DA has a comprehensive plan to rescue Eskom don't need to take their debt and put it onto the balance sheet. Another thing that's very important is that international investors will tell you how much they love Eskom debt because it is virtually guaranteed by government and it brings high yields. So that's going to just carry on going. That is not acceptable. In the world of business, debt sometimes is not actually repaid, and that's the real threat, because that's what they're saying. They want government to guarantee it because they know that Eskom isn't viable. That is not good for South Africa. So the DA's plan is one that's viable. We are ready to roll it out. All that needs to happen is that people need to come to the ballot box and fix the problem.
Thank you very much for your time this morning, Deon George, Shadow Minister of Finance for the Democratic Alliance, saying that there is an alternative to fixing state-owned entities like Eskom, and it's not putting that debt onto government's balance sheet, because that'll just cripple our already fragile budget even further. Mfundo, of course, these are topics we'll continue to explore as we lead up to the budget speech that'll be delivered by Finance Minister Godongwana at 2 o'clock this afternoon at City Hall.